Visible, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It is what.
So, dear audience, viewers, I'm very happy to be with you today. Okay, I'm Dr. Palanisamy Sivanandi from the Department of Pharmacy Practice, School of Pharmacy, International Medical University. So today I'm going to give a talk on knowledge, attitude, and perception of retail pharmacists towards patient safety culture. Why we want to talk about the patient safety culture, especially the knowledge, attitude, and perception of retail pharmacists on patient safety culture. There are a lot of question marks. What is patient safety culture? Why we want to talk about the knowledge, attitude, perception, and why we have to concentrate on retail pharmacist, right? So there are a lot of questions. Okay. So before getting into the topic, just I will ask you a few questions. Be true to yourself. How many times you bought medicine from your local pharmacy, your community medical store, your community pharmacy, or retail pharmacy? If I'm not wrong, at least every month we are used to buy some medicine for either for us or for family members, right? Maybe we can consider one time we are buying every month. So in a year, we are buying almost a minimum of 12 times medicine from your pharmacy, correct? So how many times you asked whether the dispensing person is a pharmacist? Not even a single time, right? We don't know who is dispensing. And how many times you received medications instructions, how to take the medicines? Normally you are giving prescription and you are getting medicines. Did you receive any information like how to take the medicines? Sometimes they used to say you have to take this medicine before food, this medicine after food. But they never used to say how many hours before food, how many hours after food. Okay. Do you know the person who is dispensing the medicine is a pharmacist? No, there is no surety. Did they inform you if you are taking this medicine, what will happen? The positive as well as the negative aspects of the particular tablet? No. Did they ask you about the complaints of the medications? So you are buying this medication for a long time, but because sometimes your family members used to take the medicine, antihypertensive medication, anti-diabetic medication for a long period of time. Did they ask you, are you currently taking this medication regularly? No, right? There are a lot of questions unanswered because we don't know who is dispensing the medicines, and even though we know the person, whether it's a pharmacist or non-pharmacist, and we don't know what are their role and what is our responsibility. Okay, so just have shared some clippings with you, some pictures with you. You'll see. Okay, so this is a study from news from the Deccan Chronicle. Sorry. So it's a banned drugs are freely available in medical shops. So this report was taken from 2018. So the medical shops are selling the banned drugs and it is freely available in most of the pharmacies in Bengaluru. You see, for us pharmacists, pharmacy or the medical store is a service. If the medical store is owned by a non-pharmacist, they may think that it is a business. For them, it is a business. Correct? So if a businessman runs a pharmacy, what they will do, you can't expect a morality. You can't expect a service. You can expect only the business. So here, the banned drugs are freely available in medical shops, especially in Bangalore. This report says that. And in Indian slums, the painkillers are the part of daily routine. Why in Indian slums, India slums, the slum area? We know that the slum area people are underpaid. They are, what is it, laborers, daily wages labor. They don't have much sophisticated life. They don't have much facility to access. So what they will do, whenever they have pain, whenever they have body pain or any type of sorts of pain or illness, they will go to the local pharmacy and they will buy medicine and they will consume it. So most of the time in the slum area, we can see the people used to take painkillers or any type of medicine every day. And if you're asking something, oh, you're taking the medicine, body pain. The men will take alcohol and the woman will take painkillers. So it's a routine practice how we are taking the food. Like that, they used to take the painkillers every day. Okay. So another report, that the report was taken from what is it? Chennai. Here, the drug control department, the drug inspectors found that some of the pharmacies are selling the expired medicines. Whenever we buy medicine from the pharmacy, we are not used to check what is the chemical content present in the medicine. What is the expiry date? Even though a pharmacist, even though we are educated, we are not checking it, but we are supposed to do it. So what happened in Chennai in last year? Some of the pharmacies are selling the expired medicine to the patient. So the drug control department found out that these pharmacies are selling the medicines and they asked them to dispose it. So now the pharmacists sent back all the expired product to the company. Now what the company did, they dumped all the medicines to the residential area. The expired medicine should be disposed properly. But what they did here, the pharmaceutical firm, that dumped all the medicines in the residential area. So now the government instructed that you have to dispense all the medicine to, you have to dispose all the medicines in a proper way. This was happened in the last year, 2019 November, and the action was taken by Tamil Nadu Drug Control Department. Okay. Not only in India, even in Pakistan also we have the same problem. The private hospitals could be involved in selling expired medicines. Even when you are admitted in the corporate hospitals, what they used to say, they will give a prescription to you. Okay, maybe if your parents are admitted, your relatives are admitted in the hospital, they give you a prescription and they will ask us to buy medicine from the pharmacy. Right? And after buying the medicines, we will hand over the carry bag to the medicine bag to the nursing staff or the hospital staff, and we don't know whether they are administering this product to the patient or not. Our duty is to buy the medicine from the pharmacy and hand over it. And we are not checking again the expired product, the expiry of the products. So what they did actually in Islamabad, the private hospitals could be involved in selling the expired medicine to the patients repeatedly. They are using the same medicine, repeatedly selling again and again. It's like a profit. For them, it's a profit. Because it is a lack of awareness about the product, the medicines among the patients as well as the pharmacist. This happened in Pakistan. Okay, so not only in India and Pakistan, even in US also, the FDA issues warning to Dollar Tree about selling a potentially unsafe drug. So these companies are selling potentially unsafe drugs. These drugs are very, very, a dangerous one. And this, if you're taking this drug, may cause potential, complications to the patients. So the pharmaceutical company and the Dollar Tree company is selling a lot of unsafe drug to the patients without any valid prescriptions. So FDA given a strict warning to them, stop selling all this unsafe drug. Okay, not only in US, even in UK also, this report was taken in this year, 2020 February. A pharmacist, a qualified pharmacist, a British pharmacist, he's selling all the narcotic products, sedative drugs, and hypnotic products to the patient without any prescriptions. So this pharmacist jailed for slashing 1.2 billion pounds worth of plastic controlled medicines illegally. Even he's a qualified pharmacist, but he thought that pharmacy is not a service, it's a business. So he want to get huge amount of money in a short period of time. So he went illegally selling all these medicines without any prescriptions. Why all these problems are coming again and again? The main thing is, in India, most of the pharmacies are run by non-pharmacists. Even though we have enough number of qualified pharmacists, we don't have that much amount to start up a business. Even though if you have a business, if you have money and you have enough knowledge about the pharmacy, but you don't know the management skills. So sometimes they will open the pharmacy and they will close it down, or they will sell the pharmacies to non-pharmacists. The main thing is lack of awareness about the management skills, as well as they don't know how to run a pharmacy. That's why most of the non-pharmacists took up this challenge and opening the pharmacy. Instead of thinking it's a service, they are thinking it's a business and they're running it. Right. So we'll discuss in future. Okay. So what is patient safety here? Whenever you sell any product to a patient, none of the medicine is safe. We know that. None of the medicine is safe. Whenever we are selling a product, what happens? We are supposed to inform the patient what will happen if you are taking the medicine, the positive aspects as well as the negative aspects. But most of the time, they used to give information about the positive aspects, not the negative aspects. Right? So here, the patient safety is a very big concern. It is not only here, everywhere. It is a patient safety is a increasing concern globally. And what is patient safety? It is a prevention of errors and adverse effects to patients associated with healthcare. You have to prevent the errors and the adverse effects. So over the past few years, the medication errors have become the largest constituent of medical errors. There are a lot of medical errors are there. Medication error, dispensing error, administrative errors, then device error, transportation error. So a lot of things are there. Medication errors are there. The medical error. So among all the medical errors, medication errors are very big concern. The medication plays a major role in bringing a good health as well as damaging the health. Okay, the landmark report says that to err is human, but the Institute of Medicine, that is IOM, stated that 98,000 deaths happening in United States every year because of medical errors. So not even a single error, there are about 98,000 deaths because of medical error. A report from US, the same country, says in the year 2013, there are 4 lakh adverse events and 210,000 deaths annually, which is preventable. If you are good in knowledge, if you are good in practice, you can prevent these deaths, these adverse events. Similarly, a study conducted in Australia stated that adverse events occurred in 17% of all admitted patients, which are preventable. So there are about 17% of preventable adverse events in admitted patients. How to prevent it? A greater knowledge and better use of knowledge is vital for understanding the degree and causes of patient harm. We need a good knowledge about the patient safety, the theoretical aspects, the pharmacology, toxicology, everything we need, a greater knowledge. Apart from that, better use of knowledge. So attitude, the knowledge, attitude and perception, everything very, very important to maintain a good patient safety. In Malaysia, we have Patient Safety Council. It was established in the year 2003. This is chaired by the Director General of Health, Malaysia. So this patient safety related issues are governed by this council. In India, we don't have any patient safety council. We have the National Patient Safety Implementation Framework. It is under the Ministry of Health. And why we talk about this one, what we did. I started in this university, International Medical University, in the year 2014. Previously, I was working in KMCH College of Pharmacy. KMCH College of Pharmacy is attached with almost 800 bedded hospital. I did a lot of projects in KMCH by taking the patient's data, patient case sheets. So a lot of patient-related projects. When I joined here, I found that there are a lot of restrictions for doing any clinical studies, the clinical research areas. So what I did, I was searching in Google, and I found that there are a lot of research carried out, especially the patient safety research carried out in hospital setup, but not in a single study in community setup. Again, repeating, there are a lot of studies are carried out in patient safety, especially in hospital setup, because the doctors are very keen to do that. What is patient safety? How to maintain the patient safety? What are the patient safety issues? So all these things. But the pharmacists are not aware about patient safety, and not even a single study in retail pharmacy or community pharmacy setup. Whenever you have fever, whenever you have cough and cold, we are not directly going and consulting a doctor. We used to go to normally even any country, we used to go to retail pharmacy or community pharmacy and we are buying medicines. Correct. So the retail pharmacists or community pharmacists, the pharmacists working in this retail area or community area have a direct contact with the patient, not a hospital pharmacist. They play a major role. If the community pharmacists or retail pharmacists are committing some mistake, it will directly affect the patient. I found that there are a lot of room for us to do the research in Malaysia, especially in the retail pharmacy setup. So I took this challenge and I started my project in 2014. Okay. So what I did actually, I took up this challenge in 2014 and I carried out a study in I started in single state and I completed this study in 14 states, 11 states out of 14 states in Malaysia. So we will discuss more. So coming to our research methodology, we carried out a study to assess the retail pharmacist's knowledge, attitude, and perception towards patient safety. And this study is a cross-sectional study and it's a nationwide survey. As I mentioned earlier, I started this study in a single state, and within the last 5 years, I completed in almost 11 states of Malaysia out of 13 states. So this study was carried out almost 4.5 years. I'm going to present the details about the last 4.5 years study. So all the Malaysian registered pharmacists, those are working in the retail pharmacy, are included in the study. Those are willing to participate in this study are included. And the pharmacists who do not meet the inclusion criteria and those who don't want to participate are excluded from the study. So we calculated the sample size. We have almost 15,000 total pharmacists in Malaysia, the registered pharmacists so far. And we calculated the sample size by using the standard formula approved by our university as well as the Ministry of Health. So we took the total study population will be 1,257. Okay, so we used to study instrument. These study instruments are prepared by Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, AHRQ. So this is a pharmacy survey on patient safety culture. So this question was used to assess the knowledge, attitude, and perception of retail pharmacists towards patient safety. So in this study, we didn't assess the theoretical knowledge because in each and every curriculum we have what is patient safety, right? So we assess only the practical knowledge. Initially, we assessed the practical knowledge in almost all the states, and later we started assessing the theoretical knowledge. So today I'm going to present the details about the practical knowledge, attitude, and perception of retail pharmacists towards patient safety. So this questionnaire was having 36 items measuring 11 composites. Apart from this 36 items, there are 3 items on the frequency of documenting different types of mistakes, and 3 items on the respondent background characteristics and the overall rating questions, how the pharmacy is doing well, and a section for open-ended comments. So there are about total of 43 items were there in the questionnaire. It is a validated questionnaire, even though it is validated by the AHRQ, Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. It is approved by WHO. Again, we revalidated the question for the current scenario or setup in Malaysia by IMA faculty members. And apart from the questionnaire, we used a study info sheet as well as a consent form. So this is our study questionnaire, the retail pharmacy survey on patient safety. So there are the section A, it's working in this pharmacy. Actually, this information, there are 10 questions under this section A. This will assess how the pharmacists, the structure, how the pharmacists are respecting, the pharmacists working in this pharmacy are respected each other, and what are the problems in the work area. So all these informations are assessed by using the 10 questions. And the section B is the communication and workplace. So how they are communicating, if anything happened within the pharmacy, how they are communicating to the patient, or how they are communicating with the fellow pharmacists, or how they are communicating with the management, how they are communicating with the junior or fellow pharmacist. Okay, so there are almost 16 questions under this section B. And another one is section C. There are 10 questions under the section C. It will assess the patient safety as well as response to mistakes. Suppose if a pharmacist is committing any mistakes, we are pharmacists, right? When we started working after our graduation, when we started working, we also committed some mistakes. Even when you're taking your training, we also committed some mistakes. For us, it is a learning process. Committing a mistake and learning from the mistake is a learning process. But for patient, it is a patient harm. Without their knowledge, without our intention or with our intention, we are committing some mistakes, and these mistakes directly affect the patient. For us, it is a learning process. For patient, it is a harm. So all these mistakes, how they are committing mistakes, if the mistake is committed, what they will do, how they are rectifying the mistakes, how they are communicating the mistakes to the people, how they are rectifying, everything will be assessed in these questions, in the section. And documenting mistakes. The documentation is very, very poor in developing countries. Whenever you make a mistake, you are supposed to document it. I did this, this happened. Correct. So what, when I started after my diploma in pharmacy, I completed diploma in pharmacy in 1999. And after that, I was started working in a community pharmacy for a short period of time. Almost 1 year, I was working in community pharmacy to get some knowledge, to gain some knowledge before going into my higher studies. At that time, one small boy came with a prescription. In the prescription, they wrote some medicines, and our fellow pharmacists dispensed some medicine to the patient. Something dispensed to the boy. Later in the evening, a old woman, along with her husband, came to our pharmacy with the same bundle of the medicines. Okay. The lady was shouting like anything to the fellow pharmacist. We also don't know what happened. She's keep on shouting. And later we realized that, okay, let me calm. Okay, tell me your concern. So we got all the prescription, as well as we received the bundle, and we opened the bundle and we checked what they dispensed. The doctor is a gynecological doctor. He wrote sugar-free. He wrote sugar-free for the patient because the patient is elderly patient. The patient having multiple complications. So in the multiple complication, the patient is a complicated patient having a lot of complications. So the doctor wrote many medicines. Along with that, one medicine is sugar-free. But normally this gynecological doctor used to write the another one. What is that? The carefree. So what happened here? Instead of we check the prescription. The yes is like carefree. We can see only the free. We cannot see the full what they're written because scribbling. So now the pharmacist thought that this is a gynecological doctor, so the gynecological doctor wrote some free. So maybe it's a sugar. What's a carefree? So he dispensed carefree instead of sugar free. Sugar free is given for diabetic, and we understand that, and we explain the patient this is happened because of misunderstanding, because wrong assumption. The guessing is not at all good. So we explain the pharmacist, the fellow pharmacist, as well as we explain to the the patient also, and we rectify the issue. So the mistake happened. So now we instructed all the pharmacists working in this pharmacy, whenever a patient comes to here, just check their age, check their condition. Ask them. If you have any doubt, ask them. Otherwise, you call directly the doctor and dispense it. So how we are communicating, but still we are not documenting it. So how we are documenting the mistake, that will be assessed in section C, and section D is documenting mistakes, and here section E is the overall rating. Apart from all these questions, answering to all these questions, they are supposed to rate their pharmacy, whether the pharmacy is good in maintaining patient safety or poor or excellent, what it may be. And some background questions we asked, that is how they're working, experience, how long they're working, how many hours they're working here in the pharmacy, and what are their positions. And finally, section for their comments. So this is a question what we used. Okay. So, and apart from that, we use the study information sheet. This will explain all the information about the study, what is the purpose of the study, why you want to carry out the study, and is there any danger in the study, how the study will help the pharmacist, everything. Then before including the pharmacist or the respondents, we got the consent from them. So this is key events. We prepare the questionnaire and validate it. Then we distributed the questionnaire to the pharmacist. And during the first initial meeting, we explained about the study purpose and we distributed the questionnaire. Then after that, we given 2 weeks reminder because there are 40 items are there. It is not possible for them to answer immediately. So we given 2 weeks time for them to fill up. So the first reminder was given at the end of first week to fill up the questionnaire. And some of the pharmacy didn't fill up the questionnaire. So we given the second reminder at the end of second week. The third week, again, we met the pharmacist and we collected all the filled the questionnaire and we performed a statistical analysis and the results were submitted. So this is key events of our study. Okay, so we performed the statistical analysis by using the SPSS version 25.0 and we performed some statistical calculations according to the data we collected. Okay, so coming to the results. So as I said, we conducted this study in 11 states of Malaysia. So we approached 1,257 respondents because as per the calculation, sample size calculation, we approached 1,257 and out of that 1,191 responded with a filled questionnaire with a response rate of 95%, around 95%. Okay, and in Malaysia, most of the pharmacies are female. You can see here there are 761 pharmacies are female because most of the healthcare courses, not only pharmacy, even medical, any healthcare courses are taken up by female because they are very keen to study healthcare courses when compared to male. So there are about 64% the pharmacists are female and most are senior pharmacists. So we categorize the respondent two category, senior pharmacists and junior pharmacists. Senior pharmacists means the people with more than 1 year experience and junior means less than 1 year experience. So here most of the pharmacists are having more than 1 year of the working experience. So there are about 65%. Okay. And coming to the working experience of the respondents or the pharmacist, and most of the pharmacists are having working experience of 1 to less than 3 years, around 25%. And apart from that, there are next pharmacists, apart from the 1 to 3 years, there are about 17% are having experience of 3 years to less than 6 years. And most of the pharmacists are having more than 1 year experience here. Because experience plays a major role in attitude and perception. Okay, I will explain this later. And working hours of respondents, and most of the pharmacists are working more than 40 hours. So there are different categories are there. Here more than 70% of pharmacists are working more than 40 hours per week. The government says we have to work only 40 hours. But here most of the pharmacists are working more than 40 hours. The reason began that most of the pharmacies are having own pharmacy. The pharmacy owners are pharmacists. So they will open the pharmacy in the morning and they will work till evening, till they are closing the shop. So they are working more than 8 hours per day. Okay, but what happening in India, the working pharmacists are not pharmacists. The working people within the pharmacy are non-pharmacists and they are working more than 40 hours. Correct. So when you are working more than the stipulated time, more than the average time, what will happen? You may have dizziness, you may have tiredness, and you will lose your interest. So this will directly impact the service, quality of service. Okay, and coming to the positive response rate, actually we have 11 items in our questionnaire, as I explained that. So physical space and environment. So how the pharmacy are physical space, like the dispensing area, the counter, then the patient counseling area. So all these coming under the physical space and environment. So there are the positive response rate is how many patients said the positive response divided by total number of response into 100. There is a positive response rate. So here the physical space and environment, it scored 89.4%. And the teamwork is very, very essential. When you're working in a team, you can achieve a lot. Not only in pharmacy, in any area, if you're working as a team, you can achieve a lot, right? So here the teamwork scored almost 93%. And staff training and skills. Actually, in Malaysia, if you want to retain our license, the pharmacist license, they have to maintain 30 CPD points every year. The 30 CPD points they can collect from any webinar or any seminars or workshops or CPD events. So they have to maintain it. Whenever you are attending a lot of seminars or workshops or CPD, you can learn new things and you can get update your knowledge and you can get new knowledge. So that's why the government is promoting. So here the staff training and skills scored 90%, more than 90% of positive response rate. And communication openness, how we are communicating. So we are supposed to communicate properly with our patient as well as with the higher people. So if you're communicating enough, you can avoid lot of complications, you can avoid lot of errors. So the communications openness code 88 and patient counseling. This is a very, very important point. Pharmacists can play a major role in patient counseling. We have to counsel about the product, but we are not giving, in India, we are not counseling the patient about the product. But here we scored almost 92.5%. And staffing, work pressure, and pace. So this scored very, very less when compared to other domain, because the problem is, even though we have a lot of products, we have a lot of space and everything, we have less number of staff. So this, if you have less number of staff, you can focus on each and every activity. You can spend enough time with the patient. So what happened, you can give proper advice or enough advice to the patient, so you always rush towards filling the prescriptions. So this is one of the problem in here also. The staffing, work pressure, and pace scored only 60%. Communication about prescription across shift, the seventh item, it scored 81.7. So whenever you are changing your duty, you are supposed to communicate. I met this patient today, okay, and this patient, this was happened to this patient, or this medicine came to our pharmacy, I did this thing. So the communication about the process involved in this pharmacy, you are supposed to do it with your fellow pharmacist or the person next coming to the duty. So communication about the prescription across shift should be very, very important. It is very, very vital. And communication about the mistakes scored 86%, and response to mistakes, how they are responding to the mistakes. So it scored 76, and organizational learning 91, and overall perception is 74, with the overall positive response rate of 84. Okay. And coming to the domain here, as I said earlier, the teamwork among all the domain, teamwork scored very good response, because here the teamwork plays a major role. Even in some of the pharmacy, there are 3 or 4 people who work, but they will not be, we cannot see any teamwork among them. They may, whenever if you ask anything, okay, go and take it. If you're asking something, they say, no, I don't know. If I'm asking some query, suppose I have some doubt on the particular drug's side effects, I'm asking you, and if you don't know that, what we can do, I'm talking with the patient, at the time you can check your mobile phone, or you can check your internet, your lab, what is it, your computer system, and you can find out that this, if you're taking this medicine, this will happen. So I'm talking with the patient, I'm not able to check my mobile phone, so that I'm asking the fellow pharmacist can check their mobile phone, or they can check the computer, and they can find out the answer. So it is a teamwork. So either you have to make a work effectively. And apart from that, the patient counseling scored next highest, then the organizational learning. So as I said earlier, the staffing, work pressure, and pace scored very, very less score. We'll discuss more about it, why it is less. Okay. And coming to the data of each and every state, as I said earlier, we completed this study in 11 out of 14 states in Malaysia. We started this study in 2014, and we completed this study 2019 December. So I will give you some important information about it, the study from each and every state. So Selangor is the very biggest state in Malaysia. We have huge number of population here, the crowded population. So here we have more number of pharmacies. So the pharmacists working in this area, they said their pharmacies are well organized. They have enough space and everything. And the pharmacists working here are treating each other with respect. So there are top 3 items scored very good response. And whenever the mistakes happens in their pharmacy, they figure out what is the problem, what happened, how to overcome it. So they are discussing. There are top 3 items. I'm sharing only the top 3 items with highest positive response rate and with what is it, lowest positive response rate. So the top 3 items with the lowest positive response rate are interruption and distractions. Malaysia is a very developed country. You can see wherever you go, you can see the people are using electronic gadgets, advanced gadgets. And the interruption and distraction in the pharmacy, especially from the phone calls, faxes, customers, they are making it difficult for the staff to work accurately. Because there is no, what is it, they are not maintaining, they are not respecting the privacy. So what happened, many people started using mobile phone. Even in the counter also, they used to talk with a mobile phone. So these type of interruption and distractions in this pharmacy, making the staff very difficult to work properly. and they feel rushed when processing the prescription. Why they feel rushed? The second items in the lowest PRR says they feel rushed because they don't have enough number of staff. That's why they are rushing towards prescription. They can't lose the customer. They want to get the customer. They want to sell the product. Then only they will get money. So they are rushing towards a prescription for filling it because of lack of staff. Whenever they rush, what will happen? They may get tension. They may get confusion. They can't do the service properly. So this will lead to error. This is because of lack of staff. And staff feel like their mistakes are held against them. Whenever a particular staff is committing mistake, we are supposed to inform them this was happened. Okay, so how to avoid this mistake in future? So we have to give them the chance to learn from the mistakes. But what's happening here, the staffs are feeling like their mistakes will be held against them. Actually, it's not a good practice. If you're punishing the pharmacists, if you're punishing the people, they will not learn from the mistake. So we have to give appropriate chance for them. Okay, and the next state, Melaka, here also the same IST3, the positive value for IST3 items, the pharmacy is well organized, staff treat with each other with respect, and when the mistakes happening, they are changing the way to do the things. And again, here you can see the top 3 items with the lowest PRR value. The pharmacy places more emphasis on sales than patient safety. The problem is some of the pharmacies are owned by non-pharmacists and they are emphasizing on the sales. When you're a pharmacy owner or when you're working in a pharmacy, sales is not your motto. Service is your motto. It should be your motto. But actually what is happening? Normally we are thinking that whenever you are dispensing product, at that time there are 4 or 5 patients came. So at that time what you will do, instead of asking the patient to wait for their turn, you will get all 4 prescription and will spread all the 4 prescription on the table, and we will take medicine and we will dispense. Correct. This is normally happening in the pharmacy because we cannot lose the customer. So we are getting all 4 prescription and we are spreading over the table, and we are taking medicines and we are keeping each and every prescription. So this is a very, very big problem when you have lack of staff. And here the pharmacy places more emphasis on sales rather than patient safety. I'm sure that in India, most of the pharmacies are owned by non-pharmacists. That's why there are a lot of problems. They're selling illegal drugs. They are selling expired drugs. Even they are getting medicine from the medical representative. They are getting medicine from the medical representative. On the back of the strip, it will be there only for prescription use only, or for the medical practitioner use only. It's a sample, not for sold. Correct. But what they will do, they will erase the particular printed items, the printed matter, and they will sell to patient. This is happening. You're supposed to avoid it. It's not a business. Okay, coming to another state. This state is Johor state. This is very close to the Singapore. And here, the item with the topmost 3, the items with the highest PRR value was talk to pharmacists about their medications. Here, they're encouraging the patients to talk with the pharmacist about the medication. This is very, very essential. Then the patient can take, I'm taking this medication for a long period of time, I'm not getting improvement. So now the pharmacist will check and the pharmacist will give appropriate direction. Okay, this medicine is not suitable for you, or this dose is not appropriate for you. So go and consult a doctor. Support your patient to talk with the pharmacist. And they are receiving adequate training to do the job. And the pharmacists working in Johor, they are feeling comfortable in asking questions. And the lowest values are feel rushed towards the prescription. And again here, the mistakes are held against them. They are worrying about the mistakes and informing the mistakes about the superior. And here also the pharmacists are emphasizing more on sales rather than patient safety. Coming to the city, capital city of Malaysia, Kuala Lumpur. Here our pharmacists tell patient information, important information. So here the pharmacists are giving important information to the patients as well as the fellow pharmacist, and they help the staff to learn from the mistakes. It's one of the very, very important point. They're helping the staff to learn from the mistakes. And they feel that the pharmacy working in Kuala Lumpur feel that the way we do things in the pharmacy reflects a strong focus on patient safety. Yes, if you're doing good, you can attract more patients. If you're giving appropriate counseling, some of the pharmacies are charging money for the counseling, but you're not supposed to do it. Even in India, some of the corporate pharmacy, China pharmacy are charging money for the patient counseling, but patient counseling should be provided without any money. How to take the medicine? Correct. So here, the pharmacy working in Kuala Lumpur feel, if I'm doing good, it will reflect the professionalism as well as the patient safety. Thereby, I can attract more customers. So the lowest three items are same. Okay, the Perak, another state. Here, the staff in this pharmacy clearly understand the roles and responsibility. This is very, very important. We have to understand that. If you are a BPharm graduate, or if you are studying BPharm or MPharm or PharmD, you must understand your roles and responsibility. Even though your owner, the pharmacy owner, is asking you to do something illegal or unprofessional, you must reject, I can't do it. So you must understand that, clearly understand your roles and responsibility. And they have clear skills, they have skills to do the job. And whenever they give some idea to their pharmacist or to the management or to the pharmacy owner, their ideas and suggestions are valued in this pharmacy. It is a positive aspect, what we found in the Perak state. Okay, and the pharmacy are very good in preventing mistakes. Okay, and the lowest value also same in Perak also. They are feeling that the interruption, distractions in the pharmacy and feel like mistakes, again the same problem, rushing towards the prescription. Negeri Sembilan, it's another state having more number of positive responses. You can see a lot of items are having more positive responses, and the lowest responses also same items. Here you can see the Penang. So Penang is very close to, it's a north part of Malaysia. It's very close to Thailand. Here the pharmacy working in this state having good attitude and perception towards the patient safety. So most of the items scored 100%. And again, the same items scored lowest response. So Terengganu is a east part of Malaysia. So the pharmacists working in these states are also having good attitude and perception. And the items with the lowest score are also the same. So Pagang is another state. It's very close to Malaysia. It is very close to Kuala Lumpur. So these are here also the pharmacists with scored more highest PR value for many items. And Sabah. So Sabah is actually the east part of Malaysia, East Malaysia. In Malaysia, in all healthcare institutions, we can see a lot of people, the West Malaysia, we can divide Malaysia into two parts, East Malaysia, West Malaysia. In West Malaysia, we have two states, Sabah and Sarawak in East Malaysia. So West Malaysia is what we are having, the Kuala Lumpur, Negeri Sembilan, all these states. So the people studying from Sabah and Sarawak very less when compared to the West Malaysia people. And here in Sabah, we have seen most of the pharmacists are senior pharmacists. They have more than 3 years of working experience. Why they have more experience means the new graduates, the budding students, they are not ready to take up any healthcare course from Sabah and Sarawak. That's why most of the pharmacy working in that particular pharmacies are senior pharmacists, because they completed the degree long before, and they're owning their pharmacy, and they have good attitude because they have experience. The pharmacists working in Sabah and Sarawak having very good attitude when compared to the pharmacists working in the mainland area. So here most of the items scored positive response. It's another state, Sarawak. So this state is very close to what is that? The Philippines. It is very close to Brunei country. So here the pharmacists working in this state also mostly seniors, having good experience, having good attitude and perceptions. They have very good theoretical, practical knowledge about the patient safety. So they scored more highest values for the positive response rate for the most of the items. And here the notable point is the pharmacists working in Sarawak take adequate break during the shift. But we have not seen this in some other states. And they have enough staff to handle the workload. Almost all the pharmacists said they don't have adequate staff, but in Sarawak they say they have adequate staff to handle the workload. That's why the number of medical errors are very less in Sarawak. And they are very happy. The pharmacists working in the pharmacies are very happy because they have enough staff. They take adequate rest. And whenever the customer comes, they are giving adequate responses, information to them. And we have clear expectation about enhancing important prescription information across shift. They have clear expectations. And when the mistakes have led to positive changes in this pharmacy, because in this state, the pharmacists are having seniors, they have more experiences. And whenever they commit mistakes, they are learning from the mistakes, and these mistakes led to positive changes in the pharmacy. They are thinking that whenever I commit mistakes, I will change the way to do the things. So it will have a positive impact. Again, here also they feel very rushed to prescription, and interruption, distractions also same, and they feel like the mistakes will be held against them. Okay, so coming to the, apart from answering to all the 43 items, they are supposed to answer to the overall patient safety grade, whether the pharmacies are very good in patient safety or very less in patient safety. So most of the pharmacists said their pharmacies are very good in patient safety. The 43% of pharmacists said their pharmacies, even though there are few items are having a problem or issues, overall the patient safety is good. Okay, and so this is a notable point. We found out that, and you can see here, the pharmacists working in Johor, they mentioned that there are 11 pharmacists mentioned that their pharmacies are very poor in maintaining patient safety. When compared to among all the 11 states, the pharmacists working in Johor only said their pharmacies are poor. There are a lot of issues are there. Okay, so we to find out the readability and reliability of the questionnaire, we calculated the Cronbach alpha, and this value was 0.713. So the 0.713 is considered as a very good questionnaire with a very good readability and reliability. Okay, so coming to the Agency for Healthcare Quality and Research. So the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality is a funded body, government body. This Agency for Healthcare Research Quality, maintaining the patient safety and giving advices to the WHO as well as all the patient safety centers. So this Agency for Healthcare, so AHRQ, only developed the questionnaire to conduct all the patient safety survey in hospital as well as the community setup or retail setup. So what they said, the staff working in this, the average report I'm talking about today. So the average report of the AHRQ 2019 report. The 2019 report says that the staff working in this pharmacy having less than 66 months experience. There are 84% of pharmacists having less than 6 months experience, and there are 74% of pharmacists having the working experience of 3 years to less than 6 years. This is average report of the WHO by the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality. And most of the pharmacists working in pharmacy are pharmacy technician, almost 46%, and the pharmacists working in pharmacy are only 35%. So one among the 3 are pharmacists, and remaining people are the pharmacy technician. So they conducted this survey among most of the countries. Okay, and here almost 64% of pharmacists are working more than 32 to 40 hours per week. What happening in Malaysia? In Malaysia, there are 15%, almost 15% of pharmacists are having less than 6 months experience, and there are about 17% of pharmacists are having 3 to 6 months experience, 3 years to 6 years experience, and there are 37.5% of pharmacy technicians are working here. So when compared to here, you can see in our study, most of the pharmacists are having more working experience when compared to others. because our pharmacists are having more than 1 year experience. Less than 6 months is only 14%. So remaining are having more than 6 months experience. And in our pharmacy, most of the pharmacists are most of the people working here are pharmacists. But in AHRQ study, only 35% of pharmacists are working. So when compared to normal average, we are having more number of the qualified pharmacists in Malaysian pharmacies. And as per AHRQ, most of the 64% of pharmacists are working 32 to 40 hours. But in Malaysia, most of the pharmacists are working more than 40 hours per week. So this is notable point here. They are working more than 40 hours. More than 70% of people are working more than 40 hours. If they are working more than 40 hours, it may lead to tiredness, lack of interest. If they have lack of interest, they can't do the effective service. It may lead to a lot of medical errors. So we are supposed to provide adequate rest to pharmacists, those are working in the pharmacies. Okay, and next to that, actually here, the total study response is 79%. As per the AHRQ data, the response towards their study is 79%. And coming to that, the patient counseling domain scored a 95% of positive response rate, and the communication openness scored 87% of positive response rate. And the very big problem there also, the staffing, work pressure, and pace. There are 44% positive response we scored for this domain. So what it says that remaining 55% of patients say they don't have adequate staff to do the work. So coming to our study, so we got very good responses towards the patient safety. When compared to AHRQ is 79, but our study got 94%, almost 95%, because our pharmacists are very good in learning new things. Whenever we're approached, whenever you approach a pharmacist during the initial discussion to enroll the pharmacists in the study, they showed their interest. What is patient safety? They ask a lot of questions. Why we need the patient safety? If I'm doing this study, if I'm participating in this survey, how it will benefit my patient, my people. Correct. So they're very interested to do learn new things. And patient counseling domain scored 95% in AHRQ study, but in our study we scored 92.5%. But when compared to other country, our study showed good response. They are very good in patient counseling. They used to give appropriate advices. Whenever you take a medicine, we are supposed to give advice. You have to take this medicine like pantoprazole for anti-ulcer drug, which should be taken 30 minutes before food. Correct? If you're advising the patient, you have to take this medicine 30 minutes before food, they can do it properly. And if you're asking the patient, normally we can see in our home, this medicine should be taken before food. What they will do, they will prepare all the food, everything in the plate, and they will swallow the tablet and they will consume the medicine. So just before food means 5 minutes before food, they are taking the medicine and they are taking the food. So what is the use of it? The proton pump inhibitor or the pantoprazole or the anti-ulcer drug should be taken before food. Because this is not the problem with the patient, because the problem with the pharmacist. We are not giving appropriate advice. The cholesterol drug should be taken at night. If they are taking this cholesterol medicines in the morning, what is the use? Because cholesterol medicine, the statins, atorvastatin, all these medicines, they will block the synthesis of cholesterol at the night time. Because the synthesis of cholesterol is maximum at night. So now we are taking this statins, all this drug at night time to prevent the cholesterol synthesis. If you're not giving appropriate advice, what will happen? The patient will not adhere with the medicines. Whenever, I'll give you a simple example. Whenever you touch the fire, in our family, we used to say, don't touch the fire, it will burn your finger. Don't touch, it's an advice. If I'm touching, what will happen? It will burn my finger. Correct. Don't take the bus, don't footboard, you will fall down. Don't take footboard. This is a warning sign. Don't take it. If you're taking, you will fall down. You will fall down. So that is what will happen. So we have to give the patient appropriate information. If you are taking this medicine at night time, it will reduce the cholesterol. If you're not taking at night time, if you're taking in the morning, you can get the record benefit. So patient counseling is very, very important. We are supposed to give it. And communication openness. So when compared to AHRQ data, the communication scored 87, but our people, our pharmacists scored communication openness 88.9, almost 89%, because they are very good in communication. When compared to what I noted here, when I joined in IMU, when I came to Malaysia, the people working in pharmacies, the pharmacy students or the healthcare students or any course students, the students are very good in communication when compared to our students. Our Indian students are very good in theory. They're very good in theory, but the thing is, they are far behind the communication. Communication is very, very important to deliver appropriate information to the patient. So here, the communication openness is very good. They're giving enough information to the patient. They can easily talk with the management. They can easily talk with the doctors. They can easily talk with any healthcare faculties. So that's why they scored highest response rate when compared to other people. And staffing, work pressure, and pace. Even AHRQ data, they scored only 45%, very, very less. But in our study, we scored 60%. It is considered as very good when compared to the average. But still, we need more amount of pharmacists to deliver effective services. Okay, so coming to the 11th domain, we can see here in AHRQ data, in our study, the teamwork scored highest positive response rate. Apart from the second item is patient counseling scored highest positive response rate. But here the AHRQ data, the patient's counseling scored highest response 95, and next to that the communication openness scored 87%, and the communication about mistakes scored 85%. But in our study, the third item is organizational learning and continuous improvement, because the organization promoting or encouraging the pharmacists to take up lot of courses. You take a lot of courses, you go for some CPD points, you take this one, that one. They're encouraging all the pharmacists to do a lot of researches. That's why they're very good in the practical, the attitude and perception. So they're encouraging, because there are two things. One is if they are attending a lot of workshops, CPD points, they can get CPD points, then they can retain their pharmacy license. And another thing is, whenever they're attending a lot of events like this, so they will get new information, they can adapt well, and they can give better service. And here in AHRQ, the staffing work pressure scored very less. Similarly, in our study also, it scored very less. Okay, so coming to the conclusion, the knowledge of patient safety was less in pharmacists working in Sabah, but it was high in pharmacists working in Kuala Lumpur. So the main thing here, why we have very good number of pharmacists having more knowledge in Kuala Lumpur, means easy access to resources. Even the city Kuala Lumpur, we can see in every month, every week, can see lot of events are going on in every universities or colleges. Lot of educational events, conferences, workshop, CPD points, so many things are there. So the accessibility is very, very high for the people working in Kuala Lumpur when compared to the remote area. That's why the knowledge is good. The attitude and perception towards patient safety were high in pharmacists working in Sarawak, Negeri Sembilan, and Perak, but it is low in Johor, Selangor, and Melaka. The main reason why it is very less in Johor and Selangor is it's a highly dense populations are there here. There are a lot of populations, and there is more number of prescriptions. So their intention to fill up the prescription, deliver medicine to each and every patient. Okay, not only prescription medication, lot of OTC products. Lot of customers are buying and getting medicines like OTC products, like supplements, herbal supplements, vitamins, all these things. Okay, so they have lack of staff. So due to lack of staff, they can provide good service to the people. That's why their attitude and perception is very less. And workload and working hours of pharmacists has to be minimized. Yes, because most of our pharmacists said they don't have adequate staff. They are working more than 40 hours. As I said earlier, if you're working more than 40 hours, you may be in trouble. You may have a lot of health issues. You may lose your interest. If you lost your interest, you can't do work. You can't do your job perfectly. Okay, so we are supposed to minimize or rationalize it. In Malaysia, we have Lembaga Pharmacy, Ministry of Health. They have criteria how to fix a duty. So we have to follow it. In India, we have the rules and regulations. We are supposed to follow it. Okay. The current practice of patient safety at retail pharmacies across Malaysia is fluctuating, yes. And the knowledge of patient safety among the pharmacists are high in urban area than in rural area, as I said, because of the accessibility to resources and availability of the events, conferences, all these things. Okay, it is appreciated that our pharmacists convey patients important information about the new prescription as well as to the pharmacists, because we have to appreciate our pharmacists because they are giving adequate information to the patients. And pharmacists should emphasize more on patient safety rather than promoting sales. So it is a notable point here, as I mentioned earlier, most of the pharmacies, almost all the states, even though we have pharmacists, are the pharmacy owners. Most of the pharmacy owners are pharmacists. Even though they are pharmacists, they are emphasizing more on sales rather than patient safety. Now you think about India. Most of the pharmacies are owned by non-pharmacists. And even in Malaysia, you can get even a single tablet, a prescription tablet, without a prescription. You can get an antibody without a prescription. You can get a scheduled medicines without prescription. You can get a sleeping tablet without a prescription. But in India, we can get a lot of these medicines without a prescription. Even the rural area is very common. The main thing is because it is run by non-pharmacists, and the people working in this pharmacy are only 10th standard, 10th graduated or 12th standard graduated. The 10th standard student, 12th standard student, what they know about the drug? They know what is dispensing. They know what is selling. Selling is just selling the product, giving the product out. But dispensing is giving a product along with information is a dispensing. But the people working in our country in the pharmacies are simply selling the product, not dispensing. So they know this medicine, paracetamol, should be taken for fever. But they don't know if you are taking the paracetamol for a long period of time, it will affect our liver. None of the pharmacists, none of the people used to say this one because they don't know. None of the 10th standard students don't know about this. I'm asking one question to the viewers. Have you asked this question to the person who is dispensing the medicine in your pharmacy? Hereafter, just go to the pharmacy, buy the medicine. Before buying the medicine, ask, are you a pharmacist? If the fellow is not a pharmacist, just inform them you are not eligible to work here. Directly be bold. We have the qualification. Be bold, inform them you are not authorized to work in the pharmacy. Inform the pharmacy owner. Directly inform to the authority. They cannot do anything. They can't torture you. They can't, hit you back. Because you are right. You have the qualification. If everyone started informing them, in this pharmacy, we don't have pharmacists. Only the school boys are dispensing the medicine. Now, they will start recruiting more number of pharmacists. Once they started recruiting pharmacists, every pharmacy will have pharmacists, then automatically the salary will be increased. The main concern why we are not working in retail pharmacy salary. They are giving only 4,000, 3,000, 5,000 salary, because after completing our graduation, after spending huge lakhs of money, we are not ready to work in pharmacy. Yes, I'm correct. You are correct. But the thing is, we are not informing the higher authority. This pharmacy is having non-pharmacist. If everyone is reporting like that, every pharmacy owner will recruit the pharmacist. Now every pharmacy will have pharmacist, qualified pharmacist, automatically salary will be increased. That is a ground level work we are supposed to do, but we are not ready to do the ground level work. Some of the pharmacists are selling their degree, that registration license, for 1,000 rupees, 2,000 rupees. We are spoiling our life. So we are supposed to do it. If a pharmacy is owned by a non-pharmacist or the businessman will think it is a business. They will promote only the sales. If we are running that, you can restrict. Okay, so the study says that the community pharmacists with improved knowledge, attitude, and perception towards the patient safety will reduce the number of medication error. Yes. Now you may have some doubt. What is our role? How we can do it? So there are some 8 steps are there how to ensure the patient safety as a pharmacist. Ensure the medication access. Whenever a pharmacist comes to your pharmacy, ask them what are the medicine they are taking and make a stock. If the patient is coming to your pharmacy regularly, means keep the medicine in stock well in advance. Now the patient will comes to your pharmacy and get the medicines. This is one type of service. Ensure the medication access. Another one is supplying medicine information. Whenever you dispense a medicine, give information. You have to take this medicine before food, 30 minutes before food. This medicine should be taken 30 minutes after food. If the patient is taking the digoxin tablet, digoxin is a cardiac glycoside. Take this digoxin tablet, it's a cardiac problem tablet. You have to take this tablet every evening, 5 o'clock, 5 p.m. Why we are choosing 5 p.m.? You know that? Because it's a life-saving drug. If a patient is started taking this digoxin every day at 5 p.m., the next day they can remember, okay, 5 p.m. I was supposed to take the medicine. Morning, afternoon, evening, every time they are taking medicine. But there is a routinely, if you are doing some work routinely, there is a possibility for forgetfulness. If you're doing something in unusual time, you will not forget it. Normally every day 5 p.m. you used to take tea or coffee, but at this time if you are taking this tablet, don't take the tablet with the coffee or tea. I'm giving an example. If you're taking tea or coffee every day 5 p.m., you have the tendency 5 p.m. I have to take tea, I have to go to the shop to take tea, the tendency. Like that, if you started taking this tablet every day at 5 p.m., the life-saving drug, your brain will stimulate you, you have to take the medicine. So for that, you need appropriate advice. Who can give the advice? Only the pharmacist can give the advice. So supply medicine along with the necessary information. We know that the beta blocker should not be taken with the beta agonist. Beta agonists are given for asthma, and beta blocker are given for antihypertensive medication for hypertension. These two drugs should not be combined. Only the pharmacists know this interaction. If a non-pharmacist selling the product, they don't know what they will do, they will dispense. Finally, the patient will be collapsed. And evaluating the medicine appropriateness. Whenever the patient comes to your pharmacy, suppose a patient comes to your pharmacy to buy medicine regularly, instead of dispensing the medicine, ask them, you are taking this medicine for almost 2-3 months. Is it working in your body? Do you have any improvement? Ask some few questions. Don't think it's a business. Spend few minutes with them. Ask, is it working? Have your BP reduced? Okay, and give appropriate information to them. Evaluate the medicine appropriateness. If the medicine is not reduced their BP, inform them, go and consult a doctor. This information you can give. Another one is improving medication adherence. Most of the time, we are asking, whenever the patient comes to our pharmacy, okay, this is your medication, take it. This is your medication 2 times, morning, afternoon, night. This is your medication 2 times. This is your medication, you have to take it in the morning. Have you asked about the pharmacist? Have you asked about the patient? Are you currently taking this medicine in appropriate time? Ask the patient, confirm them. Are you taking this antihypertensive medicine in the morning time? Are you taking this pantoprazole before food? Ask few questions. If you found that that patient is not taking the medicine in appropriate way, appropriate timing, inform them this medicine should be taken like this. Hereafter, please remember. You can correct them. Who can do? Only the pharmacist can do. Simply dispensing is not our duty. There are a lot of things are there. If you know how to read ABCD, you can dispense. You can sell the medicine. You can, what is that? You can give away. To deliver all these information, we need a degree. We need the qualification. You have the degree, you have the qualification, you can do it. Let us say, for example, there are 10 pharmacy store. The medical stores are there in a street. And you are working in a pharmacy. You are working in a pharmacy and you are delivering all this information. Whenever a patient comes to your pharmacy, you are greeting them. Hello, good morning. How are you? How can I help you? Okay, this is your medication. This medication is supposed to be taken in the morning before food. This medicine should be taken after food. Okay, this is a cholesterol medication. If you're taking this cholesterol medication, you have to take at night. When you're taking this medicine, your cholesterol will be reduced. And when you're taking statin, you may have some muscle pain. So that is nothing to worry. If you have severe muscle pain, you come and meet me. If you started giving information like this, if you have started treating a patient like this, you can run your business very well and you can beat all 9 remaining pharmacies. Now, the people going to remaining 9 pharmacy or medical store will come to your pharmacy because you are giving good service. You are providing adequate information. Correct. So we are supposed to do it. Improve the medication adherence. How can you improve medication adherence? Ask them. Ask a lot of questions. How do you take medication? So that is one way. And another one is providing health and wellness services. Without spending even a single penny, single rupee, you can provide a healthcare service. You know, the advice, the patient counseling. That's one advice. Another one is you may have the BP measurement machine, the sphygmo manometer, or the digital machine. Whenever the patient comes to your pharmacy to buy some BP tablet, just to check their BP, it's a matter of only 10 seconds. You know, just to tie up the cup, press the machine will detect everything. It's a matter of 10 seconds. This 10 seconds will provide a lot of impact. Are we really doing it? No. Most of them we are using mobile phone, using Facebook, WhatsApp, chatting, everything we are doing. But we are not spending even a single minute for the services. So what is it? Anti-diabetic medications. Whenever the patient comes to buy anti-diabetic medications, do some simple test. Ask them, do you have any problem? Numbness in your leg, numbness in your fingers, any skin itching? There is a lot of chance for urticaria. Ask few questions. If it is possible, you can do some blood glucose monitoring. So provide some health services. And the next one is performing medication management services. Medication management. When a patient comes to your pharmacy, scrutinize the prescription, check whether all the medicines are appropriate or not. Whether this prescription is latest one or old one. Sometimes patient will come with a very old prescription for the new condition. So you have to check it. You have to inform them. This is 10 years. This is maybe 1 year, 2 years before old prescription. So you have to consult a doctor now, get a new prescription, inform them. And another one is assessing patient's health status. Yes, assess how they are doing, how they are performing, whether the health status is good or bad. After dispensing the medicines, still your role is there. You can call them. You can, whenever they comes to your pharmacy, whenever you meet them, ask them how they are coping up, how they are doing well, whether health status improved or not. You can ask a lot of questions. And coordinating care transitions. If you found any problem with a particular patient, inform that to your pharmacist, inform the fellow pharmacist, or inform them, inform the doctors, this patient having this problem. You can do a lot of services. Okay. So there are some patient safety goals are there. There are 6 goals. One is to identify the patient correctly. Then improve effective communication is very, very essential. Then improve the safety of high alert medication. Whenever a patient receives high alert medication, you have to inform them, if you're taking this medicine, this will happen. Correct? So when you're dispensing digoxin tablet, inform them, you have to take only 1 tablet at a time as per the prescription. Don't take double the dose. The double the dose will kill the patient. Correct? So give alert, give instruction for high alert medications, ensure the correct site, how to take the medicine, correct procedure. The drug should be taken sublingual route, correct? Some of the isosorbate should be taken the sublingual route. So inform them, and reduce the risk of healthcare associated infections. This thing you can give, and reduce the risk of patient harm resulting from falls. There are some of the medication can cause falls. There are a lot of medications are there. In my previous talk, I used to give the fall prevention. Maybe it is available in the YouTube, you can check. There are a lot of medicines may cause falls. These drugs are very, very dangerous to the elderly people. The antihypertensive medication, cholesterol medications. So you can give advice to them. Okay, as a patient, how can you improve your patient safety? Keep list of all your medications. This is very, very essential. Whenever you consult a doctor, inform them, I'm taking these medications. Thereby you can improve your safety. And keep all medicines in the same place, because in most of our home, we have elderly people. So whenever you keep a medicine in the same place, they can easily remember that. They can go and take the medicines. Normally, when we are taking lift, right, the staircase or lift, we can see, you don't need to think about the number. If you're taking the lift again and again every day, your finger automatically go to the particular button. I'm residing in 6th floor. Whenever I go to the lift, right, my finger will automatically go to the 6th floor, the button, because it is already feeded. So like that, keep the medicine all same place. So this will help the people to remember the medicine to take at a particular time. Ask questions. If you have any questions about your medication, ask the pharmacist. And most of the time, use only one chemist, because the chemists know that you are buying your medicines regularly. So they will keep the stock of medicines. Whenever you are in hurry, you can go and buy the medicines. And take your medicines according to your directions given by the doctor or the pharmacist. Apart from that, talk to your doctor or pharmacist whenever you have any problem with the medicines. After taking the medicines, suddenly your health is improved. Let us say, for example, after taking a single tablet, your corona is completely gone. So you have to inform your doctor. Doctor, I took this tablet, only one tablet, my corona is gone away. It's not possible to treat a corona with a single tablet, right? So you have to inform your doctor, the pharmacy, if there is any unusual change. After taking the particular tablet, if your condition is worsen, your vision is impaired, inform the doctor or the pharmacist. And yesterday, it's a very good news now. I will tell you that. One of my friend, she's almost 58 kg weight. She's 58 kg weight. She sent me a message, like in a WhatsApp, she sent me a photo like Orlistat. So Orlistat is a lipid lowering drug. It will reduce the cholesterol synthesis, the lipid lowering drug. Normally, the obese people used to take the Orlistat to reduce their weight. She told me that I'm going to reduce my weight 4 or 5 kg. So can I take this Orlistat? I asked her, what is your weight? 58 kg. What is your height? 150 centimeter. For 150 centimeter, the 55 or 58 is normal weight. Why you want to reduce your weight? If you're taking this Orlistat, I said earlier, none of the medicine is safe. If you are taking Orlistat, it will damage your cholesterol metabolism. It will disturb your cholesterol metabolism. So I given a lot of information about the problems associated with Orlistat, and I told her, no need to take your tablet, just control your diet. And if you are a pharmacist, you can give this advice. And if you're not in a pharmacist, what you will think, okay, the patient comes to buy Orlistat, let them take it. We will dispense it. Okay. And throw away the medicines that are out of date. Whenever you buy a medicine, hereafter, whenever you buy a medicine, turn the strip or the packet, check for medicines, whether the medicine is having life period or not. If the medicines don't have life period, the expiry date, if it is expired, you have to throw away the medicines. Very simple example. If you have the life, if you have the soul, if you have the life, We are called as Dr. Palanisamy, Dr. Prabhu, Dr. so and so, blah blah blah, with a name. Once we lost a life, once, what is that, died, we will be treated as a dead body. Correct? Even though we have a lot of organism in our mouth, nose, everywhere in our body, now the organism cannot produce any symptoms because we have the immunity. We have the potency. The potency will destroy all the organisms. Like that, the drug also have the potency to cure the disease. Once a drug is expired, once we died, what will happen? Our body will be treated as a medium. Now the organism present in our body as well as the surrounding will take up our body as an organism and will start growing. Correct? So, like that, the drug also having the potency, life. Once the life period is over, once the drug is expired, now the drug will be treated as an, what is it, toxic substance. This toxic substance will damage the body, damage the system. So throw away all the medicines. Do not share your medicines with the family and friends. Even though both are having the same symptoms. Let us say, for example, the coronavirus. The coronavirus symptoms are very similar to the normal common cold. The fever, cough and cold, then what is that? Restlessness, breathlessness. So all these things are there. Even though the symptoms of coronavirus is similar to the normal common cold or the flu-like symptoms, the virus is different. The virus cannot be treated. The coronavirus cannot be treated with a normal flu viral drug, the Tamiflu or the flu viral drug. Normally, what we would do in our home, the elder boy is having this. Last week, the elder boy had the same symptoms, so I given this medicine. Now the younger boy is having the same symptom, I will give the same medicine. No, maybe the symptom is same, but the organism will be different. It may produce a lot of complications. So what I have to do is, do not share your medicine with your family or friends. Okay, so these are some of the references for you to refer if you want more information. Okay, and remember that patient safety is first. You are a pharmacist, maybe you are a budding pharmacist, or you're working pharmacist, or maybe educator, or whatever it may be. You may be working faculty. Even in your working faculty, let us say you are working in an apartment. So you can buy a medicine, maybe if you have a BP apartment machine, spend almost 30 minutes or 1 hour in your apartment. You call your neighbors, come and check your BP. It's a type of service. Instead of these people going to their pharmacy to check their BP, even if you have the accessibility, if you have the machine will not cost you much. The machine will not charge you money. Just do some voluntary services. Okay. So remember that the patient safety is must. So this is our university, International Medical University. It's the first private university in Malaysia, and this is our main campus. So we last year we achieved Malaysia Book of Records. We prepared this what is that, periodic table with some papers, the waste papers. So this is some of my achievement I want to share with you. So I got some poster prize, some outstanding researcher award, as he mentioned in that introduction. So these are some of the things I want to share with you. He's my dean, Dr. Mohammed Zulkifli. He's a backbone for us. He's a supporter. He's giving a lot of support to do all these things. Okay, thank you. Remember, every day is a patient safety day. So if you have any queries or doubt, you can ask me.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Palaniswamy sir, for a wonderful session. As you said, every day is a patient safety day. Yeah. And your perceptions towards patient safety in point of view of pharmacist, as well as the goals and responsibilities, you have recollected what the responsibilities that a patient should have to achieve the maximum safety in using the prescription drugs. And now the session is open for questions. So the participants in the Zoom can ask questions directly, and the participants from the YouTube, you have given a link for asking the questions. You can ask in that link, or you can directly post your question in the chat. So now questions for the Zoom participants.
Good morning, sir. This is Santosh from Pharmacy Practice Department, Sri Vishnu College of Pharmacy.
Good morning, Santosh.
So first of all, thank you for the explanation. And coming to my question, with regard to patient safety, like when we talk about corporatization of pharmacy, like can you explain that how the bureaucracy in pharmacy diminishes the professional autonomy? Like what is your call on it?
Can you a little bit explain more your questions?
Sir, it's like, the corporatization of pharmacy has become a consolidated effort, to provide better access and larger economics.
Yeah.
Like, increased competition and dynamic changes within pharmacy. Yeah. But on the other hand, these forces of corporatization have also been found to challenge the autonomy and professional rigor of pharmacists, leading to, like, moral dilemmas are experienced by the pharmacists regarding their professional roles. So how can this corporatization of pharmacy, like, this bureaucracy in pharmacy is diminishing the professional autonomy, and how can we safeguard the professional autonomy from this corporatization?
Okay. So actually corporatization, we are thinking of the corporatization is not good. Actually corporatization is very good if it is in right hand. We have some pharmacy in Tamil Nadu also. The pharmacy is owned by, I don't want to tell the name of the chain of pharmacy. They have more than 100 outlets of pharmacy throughout Tamil Nadu. Okay, and this pharmacy is owned by 3 pharmacists. The chain of pharmacies are owned by 3 pharmacists. Now they are giving the counseling to each and every patient in a free of cost. They used to check all the health screening services like BMI, they are checking the blood pressure, they are checking whenever possible, they are checking the blood glucose, also the free of cost. Okay, and they are providing the services that's a free of cost. And this type of corporate companies or corporate chain of pharmacies owned by pharmacists are very, very good. Even though you are working in corporate companies, suppose you are working in a hospital pharmacist or community pharmacy working in a corporate company, you can provide the service. They never used to say don't give information. If all the, let us say for example, you are working in a pharmacy, community pharmacy, this community pharmacy, retail pharmacy owned by a corporate company, and you are dispensing a product to the patient, and along with the dispensing product you are giving some information. You have to take this medicine like this. They never say you should not do that. If they said you should not do that, if all the pharmacists working in this pharmacy started doing like that, then they will not say, they can't oppose. If you're doing alone, they may say, okay, don't waste your time. If everyone working in this pharmacy started doing like this, providing services, they cannot say no. Because unity, that's a teamwork. The teamwork will overcome the corporate, the trend. So we can maintain our autonomy. We have the responsibility. We can do it. That's why I'm telling, if you found that some pharmacies are having, the medical stores are having non-pharmacists, inform the higher authority how these people can work. Legally, non-pharmacists are not eligible to work in a pharmacy.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
If everyone started doing like this, right? Corporate company is good actually. Everything is corporate company. We cannot say corporate is not good actually. Even Vishnu College also is a corporate company, right? If you are having more than 10 people, it's a corporate. I'm also working in a corporate company, and maybe if you are working in a pharmacy or something. If corporate companies, now it's a new term, corporate. That's it. There are good corporates also there. There are worst corporates also there. Where we are working, that matters.
So any more questions?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
I am Manikanta of Fourth Family, sir. This webinar shows the concern towards patient safety, and the questions you asked made us to think about patient safety, sir.
Okay.
I would like to do project on medication errors when I entered into 5th year, sir.
Okay.
But do the hospital management or ethical committee allow me to do that? And what are the challenges I may face in doing that project, sir?
The challenges is first you have to maintain patient autonomy. You should not reveal the patient data. You can collect all the informations, but I think to do the medication review or medication research, I think we don't have much problem with that. Okay, if you have ethical committee clearance, you can get the ethical committee clearance, and if you are providing this information to the hospital, they will allow you. And we need good people in our research. Maybe you can get some doctor from the particular hospital, and you can include the particular doctor as a co-supervisor for your research, and you can easily do it. We are not going to treat a patient. You are not going to give a new drug to a patient for the treatment. Already what they given for the treatment, and you are taking all the information and you are going to make as a project, correct? So for that, it's not a very big problem. You can easily get, you can discuss with your faculty members, and you can include sometime, right? Sometime if you're not including a doctor or a working faculty member of a hospital, they will ask, no, we cannot do it. If you're including the doctor in your project as a co-supervisor, then they will say, okay, let we do like that. So it's not a very big deal.
Okay, thank you.
Because we are getting some help from a doctor, they also need some what's a benefit, right?
Yes.
So they can mention that I co-supervise this student, like that they can put it in the CV. And if you're publishing as a paper, they can author the paper. So thereby mutually you can benefit it.
Any questions more?
Good afternoon, sir.
Good
This is
afternoon.
Srija of 5th year pharmacy.
Yes,
And
Rija.
I having a question that, sir, what is the role of pharmacist in handling the emergency unit or any emergency situations arise, and how it would be the attitude and I mean that perception, how it would be?
Okay. Actually, emergency situation where we are working, are you working in emergency? What is the department? Accident emergency department, or you're working in ICU? Okay, or you're working in medication management? Where you're working, it depends. The role is entirely different from each and every unit. But as a pharmacist, what you can do is we can concentrate more on the medication management. So when I was doing my master's degree, at the time I underwent training under the head of Dr. Shetty. He's a 79 years old doctor. We cannot go with him. Actually, we used to go ward rounds along with him morning 7 o'clock. Normally he will walk, but we feel that he's running. The walk will be like that. So we have to go along with the doctor, and whenever we are going with the ward rounds, there are almost 4 or 5 pharmacists from the first year and second year, and also the nursing staff will be there. Then junior doctors and senior consultant, all people, around 15 to 20 people will be there in the ward rounds. So what he will do, he will go ward rounds and he will check the patient. He will check all these things, everything. Then finally he will say, pharmacist, come here. We wrote some of the drugs for this patient. Can you check whether all the drugs are appropriate or not? All of a sudden he will take 4 or 5, the pharmacist will be there. He will call any one pharmacist from the group and he will ask all these questions. Kindly check this medicine. So if you're good in theory, as well as if you're good in knowledge, you can say these medicines are not suitable for this patient. This medicine having contraindication. This medicine having drug interactions. So like that, we used to point out what are the problems each and every day. So like that, what you can do when you're working in the emergency department, you can scrutinize the prescription. What are the emergency medicines given to the particular patient? Whether all the medicines are enough, whether all the medicines given to this patient suitable to correct the conditions. So like that, you can play a vital role.
Thank you, sir. Your section is very informative. I learned many things, and it is all dealing with the patient safety. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, sir. Myself, Pravalika from 5th Pharmacy.
Okay.
I have a question regarding your study, sir.
Yeah, sure.
As you mentioned, it is a 4-year study. Did you notice any change in 2016 when compared to 2019?
Actually, there are a lot of challenges. Because previously what we did, we started doing research in major cities, metropolitan states.
Okay.
So in metropolitan states, collecting the sample is very, very easy because people will be there. If you're going to a pharmacy in a street, you can see 4 or 5, pharmacy, you can collect the informations. But we completed most of the major states and we went to least developed states like Sabah, Sarawak, and Telangana. Here, the pharmacies are located from one area to another. There is a huge distance from one pharmacy to another pharmacy. So you have to travel from here to there. That is one transportation. That's a very big issue.
Okay.
And another thing, we found that there are some of the pharmacists working in this rural area are not patient friendly or research friendly. They don't know about the research. They're thinking that no, don't take any data, I'm not ready to give my data. Even though we are not asking their personal information, they don't want to participate because of lack of awareness.
Okay, and one more question, sir.
Yeah.
As in your study, you have mentioned that staffing and working pressure is around 61%, if I'm not wrong, which is less when compared to others, right?
Yeah.
In this, do you really think people other than pharmacists, not people other than registered pharmacists, can be of some help? Why didn't you consider other than registered pharmacists in your study?
Okay, there are two things. We are in a fever, we have severe fever, and doctor is asking you to take some injection. Doctor is asking you to take injection. Okay, paracetamol injection, paracetamol injection.
Okay.
The injection can be given by a doctor or a nurse. Okay, now the ward boy is coming, can I inject? And he's asking that, can I inject the drug to you? Will you accept?
No.
Why?
Because he doesn't know anything.
Yeah, it will directly damage your body. Correct.
Yeah.
Here, the pharmacy is a service, and here in pharmacy, we are selling product that should be consumed by human being.
Okay.
Correct. That whatever we are dispensing, the pharmacy is consumed by a patient. It's a life. We can't take risk in life. So, whoever is responsible, whoever is eligible to deliver the duty, to do the job, should deliver that. So here the pharmacist, registered pharmacist are suitable person to deliver the medicine, to give appropriate information about the medicines. Now even in the 10th standard student, right, if you're asking, can I get some tablet for paracetamol? Can I get some tablet for fever? He will give paracetamol. If you're asking for some tablet for pain, he will give Brufen or Oviran. To the same person, if you're asking, what are the complications associated with diclofenac? He cannot explain because he don't know. Even the diclofenac can produce some cardiovascular complication. Correct?
Yes.
But this information the pharmacists know. But what about for the, the 10th standard or non-pharmacist? We have to think about both positive as well as negative aspects. So both information should be given to the patient. Then only we can get a clear medication adherence as well as we can get health improvement.
Okay, sir. One more question, sir. As the technology is developing, then we can see that recently they have giving digital printed sheets.
Yeah.
Rather than manual prescriptions, they have been giving digital printed sheets, right?
Yeah, correct.
So do you think this step can actually decrease the errors by the pharmacist?
Yes, we can minimize actually. Actually, as a pharmacist, when you receive any prescription, right? So what you have to do is you can check, we say any drug interactions are there now. You can go to some online websites like drugs.com. There is a website drugs.com. You can key in all the drugs name and you can check is there any potential drug interactions are there or not. Okay, if there is any potential drug interactions, you can just inform the doctor. And apart from that, you can check whether the drug is having any other complications, the compatibility of the drug or the serious complication associated with the drug. So that information you can check and you can inform it. Why we are going to this online prescription as well as a printer prescription means the printer prescription will avoid the dispensing error, mainly the dispensing error, because we don't need to think about, we don't need to guess what they written, right? The manual prescriptions are having scribbling. The P will be there, paracetamol will be there, P, then dot something. So we don't know whether it's a paracetamol or pantoprazole. Okay. P will be there and finally L will be there. So we don't know whether it's a paracetamol or pantoprazole. So we can avoid that type of problem with printer prescriptions.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
One more last question from the Zoom participants because of the interest of time.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Myself, Appal Naidu.
Okay.
Sir, I had a question. How
Sure.
one can balance the professional ethics and business in a pharmacy?
It's very good. It's a very good question, Aki. You know, surprisingly, I'll tell you what happened in 2000. Okay. In 2000, there is a unstable government in Tamil Nadu. At the time, most of the time we used to go for Bandh. You know Bandh, right? So they closed all the shops and everything. So all the doctor, clinic, everything they closed. On that day, I was working in a pharmacy because a pharmacy is essential services. I was working in a medical shop. So it's essential. Normally, we used to sell medicine. In the normal days, we used to sell medicine for around 15,000 per day. We used to sell medicine for 15,000 per day. On the Bandh day, I sold medicines within 12,000 for 12,000 without any prescription. Can you imagine? Even with the prescription, we used to sell medicine for 15,000 normal day. On a Bandh day, I sold medicine for 12,000 without any prescription. The main thing is because of service. Whenever the patient comes to my pharmacy, right, what I used to say, I used to inquire about how are you feeling today? Our family members are okay. So I'll ask few questions. I will create a rapport. Okay, so this rapport will think that, okay, this pharmacist is very good. He's asking a lot of questions. He's giving enough information. So whenever I dismiss some medicine, I used to say, okay, this medicine is for this purpose. You have to take this medicine like this. Okay, if you feel any problem, if after taking this medicine, if you have any issues, come back to me. Don't go anywhere. Come back to me. I will rectify it. I will consult a doctor and give it to you. And another one important thing, whenever we dispense some medicine, we used to cut. There are 10 tablets will be there in a strip, right? Normally we used to cut. We used to cut either 6 tablet or 4 tablet like that, correct? But you know that this sharp edge will damage or will injure the patient. Did you imagine that? The sharp, normally we are cutting a packet. There's a strip packet. This of 10 tablet will be there. So we are cutting 4 into 4, 6 or something you are cutting. Whenever you cut the tablet, the sharp edge will be there. This edge will damage the patient's body. It will injure the patient's body or finger. What I used to do, I will bend the edge. I will slightly, by using the scissors, I will cut the sharp edges. I will make it as a blend one. So now once I started doing like this, now whoever buying that medicines, they are asked to do like that. I started for a single prescription, but after that, they said, doctor, can you do this for me? So it is a small service. This type of service will give you a good rapport image. Okay, you can run the business. The service will boost up. Correct?
Yes.
Apala, you are running a pharmacy. Apollo, you are running a pharmacy. I'm your customer. I'm your customer. And every day I'm coming to your pharmacy and you're asking me, doctor, are you good? How are you doing? Okay, is your business is okay? Your teaching is okay? How you are taking the medicines? Is the medicines working for you? Okay, how is your BP? Every time you're asking. And I'm going to another pharmacy. That pharmacy is not asking anything. Just he's dispensing only the medicine. He's selling the medicine. I will come to you or I will go to that pharmacy.
Come to me, sir.
That is a service. So you can easily run the business.
Thank you, sir.
We have many questions from the YouTube viewers, but in the time interest, I'm taking only 2 questions. The first question is from Dr. Gayatri, VJSM Vishal Institute of Pharmaceutical Sciences. And the question is, how online pharmacies impact patient safety control?
Online pharmacy now actually, we don't have clear cut, what is that? Who is buying the medicine from the company? Who is storing the medicine? Whether you are buying from the reputed pharmacy or not. We cannot simply believe all the reputed stores, online stores, right? So at the time, maybe like buying some, see, you are buying something from Flipkart. You're planning to buy some saris. a red color sari from the Flipkart. Once you bought the medicine, once you bought the sari only, you can see whether it's a red color or orange color. Correct. Here, we are buying some medicine from the online pharmacies, online store, and we don't know whether they bought medicine from the reputed the manufacturer or not. That is one thing. And there is no surety for the potency of the medication. Even though they mention Ranbaxy, Cipla, or what is that, whatever so on, they can print whatever they want. And if something happened to you, you cannot directly report the the company. There is a middleman. If you're buying some medicine from the local pharmacy and something happened to you, you can directly inform the person from whom you bought the medicine. I bought the medicine from you. After taking the medicine, this was happened. And if there is any leftover medicine, even some of the pharmacies are accepting the leftover medicines, the remaining medicines, and they are giving new medicines. But these type of things you cannot get it from the online. And there is the online is an imaginary bird. So you are buying medicine from imaginary bird. There is no authentic source.
Okay. So one more question from Rajshekhar from Annamalai University. And his question is, for doing a survey studies, is there any necessity of ethical committee permissions?
Yes, 100% we need. Because surveys, there are two different types of survey. Even though if you are taking any patient-related data, and you are working in an institution, okay, and if you are giving any wrong information or contradictory information to the society, it will affect the reputation of the particular institution. Correct. So in order to avoid this type of conflict, so now we have to go for ethical committee approval. So the ethical committee will check whether this is okay, the purpose is okay, whether the study objectives, aim is, everything is okay. If it is okay, means they will give approval. If there is no control over that, if there is no control over the TikTok, now the TikTok is banned, right? Yesterday, the government banned almost 49 apps because there is no control over the apps. So there is no control over the TikTok. You can see a lot of vulgar issues in the TikTok, vulgar videos, correct? So here we need some control over, even though it is a survey-based research, we need some control. This control will maintain the reputation of the faculty, the reputation of the institution, reputation of each and every one.
Okay. So that's all. Few more questions, but in interest of time, I'm not asking, sir. I'll just mail you and your time, and I'll share the answers to the viewers.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And now I hand over to Kumar, sir, proposing
I would like to thank the management of Vishnu College of Pharmacy, the director Kumar Nemaneni sir, then the principal of Vishnu College of Pharmacy, then the pharmacy practice department, entire faculties who are putting a lot of effort to run the FDP, SDP series. So thank you everyone for your wonderful job. We will keep in touch in future also to do that.
Kumar, sir, it's over to you for proposing vote of thanks.
So first of all, thanks to Dr. Palaniswamy for the wonderful talk. I heard your whole talk from the beginning to the end. It is so crystal clear, and you presented your own data vis-a-vis the published data, and it's a very interesting study, and it's a good way of doing the research from an academic setting, and it is a good example for all the participants who are participants webinar to start thinking in this direction and start not just doing the project for sake of doing the project, but bring that project into a meaningful outcome and meaningful analysis and a good publication. So that way, it's a lot of effort is coming out with a fruitful outcome. And I like your quote, every day is a safety day. I think that message is well into the hearts and minds of every participant here. And I also believe and tell to the audience as a senior member is we believe every day is a good day, but as Dr. Palaniswamy mentioned today, if you are a community pharmacist and working in a retail shop, I think everyone has to start a day with every day as a safety day and keep safety as a very prime objective in dispensing the medication. And the another thing which I really like in the talk is we need to do job not just like doing the job as a service. I think that is, if somebody has kept that thing as the purpose in mind and doing something for just for getting paid is not something, and doing something to get the pay and as well to do something meaningful job. I think that purpose makes our profession more noble job. I think as if we keep that in mind, our every day is a great day and a good day, and as well it will be a safety day. So thank you all the webinar participants through Zoom or the YouTube, and I'm very glad and happy that you all well connected with this talk because you are able to easily ask some questions without any hesitation, and the questions are also interesting. And thank you all. I wish and hope that you all participate like this in every event and make this whole exercise a meaningful one. So I certainly look forward for your more interaction and support, maybe even a collaborative work in some kind of writing grants or publications, and be in touch and do the better for the service for the profession. Thank you. So thank you all the participants. Thanks to Bhakraju and Srinivas for nicely recording the event without any hazards. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Thank you all. And now I declare that the session is closed, and meet you all tomorrow at 10:30 in the same channel.
So